Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for September the 24th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, it is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know. So if you enjoy the show and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back for more. But today we got a story that was out of left field for a lot of people, including myself. Amazon has unveiled a new cloud gaming service called Luna, which is essentially a direct competitor to Google Stadia. Amazon is throwing its hat into the cloud gaming ring with Luna, a new game streaming technology coming to PCs, mobile devices, and Amazon's own Fire TV hardware. Starting today, customers in the US can request an invitation for early access to Luna, Amazon announced at its devices event on Thursday. Luna will be playable on Fire TV, Mac and Windows PC, and on Android and iOS mobile devices. Amazon specifies that iOS platforms will access Luna through web apps, seemingly the company's solution to Apple's prohibitive rules for cloud-based game streaming via the App Store. Amazon will offer subscriptions to game channels through Luna, one of which is called Luna Plus, that will feature games such as RE7, Control, Panzer Dragoon, A Plague Tale: Innocence, The Surge 2, Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, Iconoclast, Grid, Abzu, and Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. More titles will be added over time, Amazon said in a news release. Luna Plus will cost $5.99 per month during Amazon's early access period, and the company promises that subscribers can play on two devices simultaneously with 4K resolution and 60 FPS refresh rates for select titles. Amazon is also partnering with Ubisoft to create a gaming channel specific to that publisher. Subscribers will get access to their favorite Ubisoft titles in up to 4K resolution, mobile gameplay, and access to new titles when the channel launches, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, and Immortals Phoenix Rising the same day they release. Amazon says Ubisoft's Luna channel is one of multiple channels in development that will let players access games by publisher and genre. Luna also connects to another Amazon-owned service, Twitch. And a feature that sounds similar to Google Stadia's integration with YouTube, Luna users will be able to jump into games directly from Twitch streams. Games can be played through Luna using keyboard and mouse, a Bluetooth game controller, and Amazon's own Luna controller. Luna will also support the Xbox One controller and DualShock 4. The Luna controller, which will be available for an introductory price of $49.99, connects directly to the cloud to effortlessly control your game, featuring a multiple antenna design that prioritizes uninterrupted Wi-Fi for lower latency gaming. Amazon said its testing showed a reduction in round-trip latency when playing Luna controller with Cloud Direct versus Luna controller via Bluetooth, with reductions of between 17 to 30 milliseconds among PC, Fire TV, and Mac. Because the Luna controller connects directly to cloud servers, players can easily switch between screens, such as Fire TV to mobile phone, without additional pairing or configuration changes. Luna will be powered by Amazon Web Services technology, and international availability of the service was not announced. Amazon's cloud take on gaming sounds familiar, if not nearly identical to Google's take with Stadia, with the major exception of Luna's game channels, which will let users subscribe instead of purchasing individual games or paying for a pro tier of streaming quality. So this is something that I think we kind of saw coming, but it was still shocking to see it coming out in 2020 because Amazon is essentially positioning itself to compete directly in the consumer's mind with Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. Will it be successful at that? Absolutely not. The branding is off for this, the hype for the Series X and the PlayStation 5 is much too high, but the thing that this does have going for it is the price. For $5.99 per month, you can potentially get access to a very large library of games, at least during this introductory period, that are available on your device. But the key here is that there is a lot of potential to get nickeled and dimed. So if you look at Luna Plus, the channel that includes 100 plus games, it's going to be $5.99. That's a good deal. On top of that, you will have an Ubisoft channel. So let's say that runs $12.99 per month, just throwing that figure out there. With tax, you're up to about $20 a month. That's more than Xbox Game Pass Ultimate that includes a subscription to EA Play on top of Game Pass, on top of amazing lineups from the rest of the Microsoft Xbox Game Studios family and third parties. So again, you are currently at 20 bucks. Let's say that you want to add a third channel, an indies channel if you will, for 10 bucks a month, and then you end up getting an electronic arts channel through EA Play, which hypothetically eventually comes to the service for another 10 bones. At this point, you're up to 40 bucks a month. Now, you do have a pretty wide variety, but is it worth it at that point? And what is the quality of the experience you are getting? Is it legitimately 4K 60 FPS? Now again, if the experience is solid, this could be a game changer, but we've seen a solid experience through Google Stadia, and people still aren't really buying it. It's still not competing directly with the likes of Xbox and PlayStation. It's an alternative, but it's not an alternative that people are really taking. Now, one element that could change the tide here is the fact that there is deep Twitch integration, and there should be deep Twitch integration because Amazon owns both of these devices and this company. And so, if you are able to make a fluid experience where somebody can be watching, let's say, Hades gameplay on the front page of Twitch and jump directly into the game instantaneously, that's a pretty cool experience that Google hasn't necessarily been to really promote or to really utilize with Google Stadia. So there is potential here, but do I personally think that Amazon Luna is going to be able to really prove to the consumers that cloud streaming is worth getting into? I don't think this is going to be the one that does it, and I'm not entirely sure that any of these services can do it. Now, I've talked a lot about Project xCloud, which is now cloud streaming on Xbox. It's essentially where you have this bundle with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate where you can play on Android devices. That is a very cool feature, but it is not a platform, and I think that's where cloud streaming is going to end up. In the same way that you see remote play being a big part of the early PlayStation 4 generation with PlayStation Vita, I think that cloud streaming on mobile devices is going to be something that people offer as a feature for their titles, not necessarily a platform like you see with Stadia or with Luna. And so we'll see where this one continues to go, but I am very excited to see how Amazon markets this and how people give it a shot. Because I'm trying to get in on the early access period, I will gladly throw $6 at some company just to see how their cloud streaming is doing to get at least 1 month of the experience and see if it is worth investing in the future. But it's clear hardware is not dead around the world because Japan's initial Xbox Series X and S pre-orders have quickly sold out everywhere. Major Japanese retailers quickly sold out of their initial Xbox Series X and S pre-orders on Friday, in what appears to have been a positive start for Microsoft's next-gen consoles in the region. Now, it is worth mentioning, given historically poor market performance for Xbox in Japan, the Series X and S stock allocation is unlikely to have been high for the region's pre-orders, but regardless, it is a positive start in a country where Xbox has typically struggled, but one which it claimed on Thursday had recently become its fastest growing. Xbox kicked off its Japanese promotion on Thursday during the all-digital Tokyo Game Show, where it highlighted local games coming to Series X and S, including Resident Evil 7, Capcom's Pragmata, SNK's Samurai Spirits, and Yuji Naka's Balan Wonderland. Earlier on Thursday, Microsoft Japan had even announced a small price cut for the Series S model to put a 10,000 yen or $96 gap between it and Sony's digital edition PlayStation 5. Speaking during the TGS livestream on Thursday, Xbox boss Phil Spencer claimed the platform holder had learned from past mistakes and intended to better cater to Japanese players during this console generation. That will include launching Xbox Series X and S in Japan on November the 10th, day and date, with our biggest global markets, and bringing cloud gaming service xCloud to the country in the first half of 2021. Spencer said, quote, "If you've been an Xbox player in the years past, the power and convenience of console will continue to be important to you and supported by the upcoming Xbox Series X. But we understand that players embrace the freedom of choice and having different ways that they want to play. We are working to create an ecosystem where you choose what you want to play, where you want to play, and on the device you choose." Spencer claimed that since Xbox Game Pass launched in Japan in April, Xbox had seen more players on Xbox devices, games, and services than in any time in our history in the market. Xbox has made no secret of its intention to improve its position in the Japanese market. Earlier this year, Spencer said Xbox's market position in Japan was not acceptable and pledged to do a much better job with the Series X launch in the region. This is going incredibly well. Now, it is very hard to tap into this market because there is such a large devotion to number 1, PlayStation, number 2, Nintendo, and number 3, mobile gaming. But Xbox is doing very well this generation marketing itself. And to be able to showcase during the Tokyo Game Show reasons why you should pick up an Xbox Series X or an S is certainly going to do a lot to spur some pre-orders, and as we can see, they have sold out nearly everywhere, which is a pretty remarkable achievement, even though the allocation for the region was probably much, much lower. Now that being said, I think the big seller this generation is going to be Project xCloud or game streaming with Xbox in the Japanese market because of the fact that mobile gaming is so much more popular overseas. I think that to be able to see the experience you get on the go in your hands is going to really consider or force many people to consider the possibility of playing their games on Xbox, because right now PlayStation Now can't compete with Game Pass, and if that is the main competitor in the region, well, you might be out of luck on that one. But game streaming is certainly going to be a big part of the next generation. Not a platform, but it will be a big part of how people enjoy their games. Now, speaking of enjoying games, you will need to toss up a few bones if you do want to store more on your Xbox Series X or your S, because the 1TB expansion SSD cost $220 as officially confirmed. Microsoft recently opened pre-orders for the Series X and S, its next-gen console duo headed to market on November the 10th. The devices represent a sizable leap in graphical prowess, coupled with the latest in AMD CPU and GPU technologies, and system-wide refinements to improve speed. That also includes an ultra-fast solid-state drive storage solution, which Microsoft leverages to cut load times and eliminate a bottleneck of the prior generation. The Xbox Series X and Series S feature custom NVMe SSDs with a direct line to the CPU via PCIe 4.0. The implementation is costly, but results in 2.4 gigabits per second raw speeds or 4.8 gigabits a second compressed, translating up to 40 times increases over the Xbox One's sluggish spinning platters. Microsoft subsides the cost to hit each console's $499 and $299 retail price, but it leaves official SSD expansions rather pricey. The Xbox Series X packs a 1TB SSD, with the S coming in at just $512. With modern blockbusters regularly surpassing 100 gigabytes each, the out-of-box storage could prove restrictive. Microsoft's solution is the Xbox Storage Expansion Card, a proprietary 1TB NVMe SSD drive matching the console's internals, manufactured in collaboration with Seagate. Much of this Seagate-branded cartridge has remained a mystery, with Microsoft and Seagate yet to talk about pricing and availability until now. The card has now surfaced at Best Buy and Microsoft with a $220 RRP, backing the leak from earlier this month. You can expect the card to hit more retailers over the days ahead. Now, the author says they previously predicted the premium price back in April 2020, primarily down to the notoriously costly nature of NVMe PCIe 4.0 technology. The card purposely mimics the internal Xbox Series X and S SSD used as part of Microsoft's Xbox Velocity architecture inside each console. While it's likely to deter some, it is the reality of bleeding-edge hardware. Now, of course, as a proprietary solution, this card is mandatory to play Xbox Series X and Series S games beyond the internal storage. However, Microsoft will support USB 3.1 and 3.2 drives, previously compatible with the Xbox One consoles, when playing Xbox One, 360, and original Xbox titles on backwards compatibility. Xbox Series optimized titles may also be stored on these slower drives, although only played if they transferred to the NVMe SSD. It remains to be seen how game installations will fare on Series X and S. Microsoft has suggested Series S titles could occupy around 30% less space than those on Series X due to reduced texture resolutions, in line with the switch from 4K to 1440p. But these consoles come with higher ambitions than previous generation counterparts, which could see their footprint continue to grow. Now, this is officially confirmed. Of course, we've been expecting the cards to be around $200, and at first glance, it feels very, very expensive, because it is. Especially if you are getting an Xbox Series S. You're essentially buying a second console to get more expansion and more space. So you go from having a 512 Xbox Series S for $299 to a 1.5 terabyte Xbox Series S for essentially what is going to come out to be about the price of an Xbox Series X. Is it worth it? Probably not for a lot of people. But it is worth mentioning the technology within this. This is not a direct repeat of the PlayStation Vita memory card debacle that we saw years ago, where you were getting essentially a 32 gigabyte custom SD card for over $120. That's not what you're seeing here. This is customized technology that is built for speed. This is built to ease the upgrade for your SSD. Currently, PlayStation has nothing outside of actually upgrading your hard drive, and right now there really aren't any compatible hard drives on the market for you to upgrade your PlayStation 5 with. And so this is essentially giving players choice. Now, you don't need one of these if you don't mind reinstalling your games. So you can go that route. But I see this as an opportunity to, I suppose the best way to put this is choose what games need the right space more. Let me explain. So if you have next-gen games, let's say that you get an upgraded version of Cyberpunk 2077, Halo Infinite, and Gears Tactics on the Xbox Series X and the S. That is all going on the internal hard drive because those load times are required to play those games. But let's say that you play a whole bunch of Xbox One games that came out this year. You've got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. You've got tons of games from Game Pass that you've downloaded and installed. And then on top of that, you have some old Xbox One original games, like the first Xbox games that you play as well. Those could be stored on a very cheap 2TB external USB 3.1 drive. And you're perfectly fine because they don't need that internal processing power and those transfer speeds. So that's kind of the way that I see this. So you can get away with using an external drive if you organize your library appropriately. And that's where a lot of people might fall short. But if you do want to pre-order an Xbox Series X and S 1TB expansion SSD, the pre-orders are up now. There's no escaping the fact that that's a chunk of change, and these things are pretty big. They're beefy little boys right there. And you can plug that directly into the back of your card or your console, and you can get going. And you can start installing Doom Eternal, because it's coming to Game Pass on October the 1st. The rumors have been confirmed. Yesterday, we reported on a teased image from Xbox Game Pass that indicated Doom Eternal could be heading to Microsoft's value-driven gaming subscription. Thanks to a new announcement from Xbox, we can confirm that Doom Eternal is officially coming to Xbox Game Pass, and players won't have to wait long. Won't have long to wait, sure, why not? The sequel to the demon-slaying franchise's revival is exploding onto Xbox Game Pass for consoles as of October 1st, 2020, with a launch on Xbox Game Pass for PC a little later on. We expect this to be the first of many such announcements after the bombshell news that Microsoft acquired ZeniMax Media, the parent company for legendary gaming studios like Bethesda, id Software, and much more. As Microsoft now owns all of these game franchises, it only makes sense for their latest offerings to begin trickling into Xbox Game Pass, beginning with one of the industry's most gore-tastic and absolutely glorious first-person shooters. Doom Eternal is getting its first expansion in The Ancient Gods Part 1 on October 20th, 2020, so players who have already gotten their fill of what Doom Eternal has to offer will have a reason to make another foray into hell when the expansion drops, while PC players hopefully won't have to wait too much longer for Doom Eternal to also drop on their Xbox Game Pass. Will you be playing Doom Eternal when it comes to Game Pass? I don't know about you, but I absolutely will when it comes to PC, because I played it on Xbox One, but I have not played it on PC, and I'm excited to get back into it. But this is a major win for Xbox Game Pass, and on top of that, I'm glad that it's also coming to PC. But if you have not played Doom Eternal, highly recommend it regardless of where you play, whether it be on Stadia, which I think it's out on now as well, or PlayStation 4, or even on the Xbox consoles currently. You should dive into this one because it is one of my favorite games of the year, and potentially one of the best first-person shooters of the entire generation, if I'm being quite honest. Very action-packed dance with death kind of situation. But to round out today's show, we have some good news for fans of Among Us. The developer has canceled the sequel, but plans to add more content to the original game. In a post on their website, Among Us developer Inner Sloth has announced that they are canceling Among Us 2 and focusing on making the original game even better. Quote, "We have decided to cancel Among Us 2 and instead put all our focus into improving Among Us 1, said the dev in a statement. All of the content we had planned for Among Us 2 will instead go into Among Us 1. This is probably the more difficult choice because it means going deep into the core code of the game and reworking several parts of it. We have lots of things planned and we are excited to bring new content to everyone as you continue to enjoy playing." In addition to canceling the sequel, Inner Sloth announced some features which will make their way into the game. These features include adding a new stage, fixing server issues, adding a friends section, and adding colorblind support. These features sound amazing and will make the game even more enjoyable to play with friends. For those that don't know, Among Us is an online team-based game where you're trying to figure out who has sabotaged your spaceship. The game released in 2018, but it's become extremely popular to the point where it surpassed Fall Guys as a top seller on Steam. And over a month ago, Innersloth announced plans for its sequel, but at the time, the developer did not have any art, sound, or programming concepts done. Additionally, they said it'd possibly be in beta longer than the original game. To compare, Innersloth said Among Us was in early access for 6 months, followed by another 6 months before it left open beta. Among Us is out now on Android, iOS, and PC, and as more news comes out about the game, we'll be sure to let you know. This is a very good move because of the fact that the game is already doing so well. It's very difficult to say, hey, we're just going to go ahead and go back to the original game, but when you already have such a large install base, and when you're already riding the news of being viral and being very popular on Twitch, it wouldn't make sense to announce a sequel if the original is still doing well. Plus, the perception of how game updates have added value to the game has changed over the years to where now people expect a game to continue giving because you can just continue generating more revenue from selling the original game instead of having to transfer all of those players over to the new one. You just continue playing the same game and you continue generating revenue because more people want to buy it. It's that kind of situation. Now, the figures and the monetary schematics, that's something that can be talked about another time because I don't have insight into that, and really the only people that do are those that run the game itself. But it's fun to watch. I haven't played it personally, not really my kind of game, but it is a fantastic time if you do enjoy streaming on Twitch or you're looking for a game to play with your friends. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below and let me know what you think about everything we talked about here today. Which news story caught your eye, and will you be trying out Amazon Luna? I would love to hear your thoughts. But until tomorrow, you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.